And welcome in to the Creatively Connected podcast, season number 2. We're here with episode 13 with a very talented creative guest today. She is a tour photographer, runs her own podcast, Not the Girl Next Door. Make sure to go check it out. A full-time freelancer and, new-ish to the creative space. I wouldn't say fully new because you've been in it, but new as opposed to working, full-time for yourself and for artists. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Meagan Reynolds. You can call her either or, though. How you doing, Meagan?
Either or. Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm glad we are here for a new season of the Creatively Connected podcast. We've taken a little break, been very busy out on the road and working with clients and doing that. When you're a creative, you have a million different things going on, and you just manage how you can. So.
Don't I know it? Oh, my goodness gracious.
But yeah, you're a tour photographer, creative. Mm-hmm. Tell the people a little bit more about you and kind of what it is you do.
Oh man, so it all began in second grade. No, I'm kidding. Just like Chris said, I'm kind of new to being a freelancer. I was with iHeartRadio for 4 years and that's what I moved to Nashville for. And we parted ways back in May. I was their social media manager. So I come at photography and videography and just everything I do with a little bit of a different lens. I kind of have that social media based background, but I love the ability to create a living art essentially. And so being able to combine those two loves and do what I do has just been such a blessing and a dream. And, you and I were talking about this a little bit before I even got started of just how crazy this summer has been for me, because I went from being a 9-to-5 corporate girly to having my own company and being on tour in literally a month. I mean, that's just unheard of,
Sounds like out of a movie.
It probably could be. I mean, I'll sell the rights to that to Warner Brothers or something. Like someone run me my check, man. ASAP.
We got a script on our hands, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, I'll write it.
But no,
that's my background.
That is crazy. And in literally a month's time, you said.
Yeah, it's thrown me through for a loop, and I don't take any of it for granted. And I think, I always joke that I kind of cut the line a little bit. I don't take that for granted. I'm very aware of the fact that there's so many people that would kill to have been in the position that I'm in. And, I take that and, use that as my drive and my fuel to just learn and grow and hone my skills every single day. Every project that I do, I'm like, this is great. I'm so proud of it. Now, how do I top it? How do I beat this next time? And I think that's really reflected in my work on this tour.
Nice. And so you say you were a 9-to-5 girly before. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing prior to, working in the tour industry and your journey to becoming full-time media and, what kind of led to that leap of faith.
Yeah, so I was with, like I said, iHeartRadio for 4 years. I was their social media manager, so I was managing iHeartRadio and iHeartCountry socials. And from that, obviously, I got the opportunity to do a lot of the iHeart events, met a lot of great people over the years, from artists to managers to their photographers and videographers. And I just got really inspired. And for the first time in a long time, I felt that hunger and just, it lit a fire under my ass. It didn't kind of do that. It really did. And I remember always thinking I wanted to get there, and I just didn't really know how I was going to do it. I also didn't have the courage to just quit and go out on my own, and then until I was forced to. And it's just taken me for such a ride that this whole journey has taught me how to just kind of sometimes relinquish a little bit of control, because I am such a type A personality. Anybody who knows me knows that about myself. And so this journey has forced me to slow down and sometimes take a back seat on things.
You mentioned having courage. Touch on that a little bit and how that is such a, key thing to have when working in this industry or taking any leap of faith. To talk about what it took for you to have that courage to do that.
I mean, So I got laid off, and it was sink or swim, right? And something I had said to myself is, I have come so far and worked too damn hard to let myself sink. Like, I have no choice but to swim. And to have that, you almost have to have like a little bit of being a little delusional in yourself. Like, just almost gaslight yourself and being like, no, you can do this. You got this. Like, figure it out as you go along. And finding the joy in figuring things out as you go along will make the journey so much better. And accepting the fact that you are going to make mistakes will make things so much better and make it so much easier. Because, you know, for me, we were talking about this too. Like, I'm a bit of a people pleaser. Not a bit. I am a people pleaser. I can be a bit of a pushover. And so when you're a freelancer, you can't let those traits of yourself win. You will be eaten alive in this industry. Absolutely. If you let that win. And so it's been a lot of finding that within myself and just motivating myself, because I could have all of the encouragement from those around me in the world, but if I don't actually believe the words that they're saying and I don't see that for myself, it's not gonna do anything.
Sure. I feel like you said delusion too. You have to tell yourself that and believe that. Forget who said it. It was on TikTok the other day, and there was a video. Might have been Will Smith. I want to say it was Will Smith. We'll say it was Will Smith, and he was like, "Delusion is what makes you first believe that what you're out to achieve is even possible, and then once you fully convince yourself of that, then everyone else kind of catches on, and you just kind of catch up with time in a sense." So, I definitely credit having some delusion to some of my success too, because I was not doing anything that I'm currently doing, but in my mind I was already there and like just kind of caught up with it through time. I
mean, you see that with any sort of creative artist, whatever. Like, people think it's cringe until you're somebody, and then suddenly it's cool what you're doing. Exactly. So you need to be your own biggest fan to start out with, because people are always going to be talking their shit. Somebody's always going to have your name in their mouth. But if you just go about your business, it doesn't matter. That is the thing, I think. Amen. As creatives, like, we have to be our own biggest fans and have such pride and belief in our work, because until you have that big break or make it, whatever you want to call it, people are going to look down on you for some reason. I don't know how or why, and I'm sure that's a whole other bigger conversation. You can get, you know, philosophical with that, but it really is just the truth. And we see it especially in Nashville. You know, there's so many wonderful artists that are out here trying to make it, but, you know, people probably come to their pages and be like, ooh, they're a singer, why are they posting that? Like,
just think they're another person that's in Nashville, like, trying to make a career out of music.
Right. And the other thing I will say about that too is you don't know what people are doing behind the scenes. Like, some of the best songwriters in this town are people with small social followings. Yeah. The follower count does not equal success. Legitimacy. Yeah,
it does not.
And I hate that that's become the norm, that, you know, to be successful, you have to have that high follower count or whatever. Like, that does not make you any more or less of an artist, whether you have 5,000, 500,000, 50,000. Like,
because people with 500 followers these days can have a blue check mark and pay for it and not be anyone, you know, worthy of credited, quote unquote. So it's you can use social media for a gauge sometimes. I mean, obviously you were showing me someone's page earlier and I was like, oh, their grid is very aesthetic, like something like that. But followers, you know, you have to be careful. You can buy them and do all this these days. So someone with 15K might not even have but 1,000 people following them. You know, it's you can't trust it too much, and it doesn't equal success or anything on that scale. When you left your job, were there any moments of doubt, like that you were, say, out on the road on tour and you're like, am I making the right decision, or any time in between, you know, landing that gig? God.
Yeah, I will never forget the very first night of the Luke Bryan tour. I fully thought I was gonna have a full-blown panic attack, and like I was severely unwell.
First tour on the Luke Bryan tour. Note that.
Yeah, like we were about to go on stage, and I just literally remembering I was like, I'm gonna pass out. Like my heart was beating.
Don't trip over any chords.
I was like, don't trip, don't make a fool of yourself. Like, don't embarrass the team. Like, but also get great content. And like, I was just so nervous, and I laugh at it now, because now I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm meant to be here. And Alana's manager actually gave me the best piece of advice possible, because a lot of it was untraining what I've learned, right? You know, coming from the radio side of things, it was a lot of get the content, but stay the fuck out of the way. And I said that to her, and she was like, I totally understand that. She's like, that you can't unlearn that in one night. No. She goes, but we're paying you to be in the way now. And I was like, oh,
I made it.
When she put it like that, something just clicked in my brain, and the next night, no nerves. Because cool. and so I think having a team like that, where they are so patient and understanding and just took a chance on me. And then that's the biggest thing, is I will never forget that they took the biggest chance on me by taking me on the tour, on the road with them.
Absolutely.
And it's just, it's insane.
Because you had no prior tour experience.
No tour experience. None whatsoever.
Going from working a 9 to 5 to on tour on some of the biggest stages, on tour with some of the biggest artists. So that's incredible.
And I literally texted one of my buddies who's another tour photographer, like in the days leading up until I left, and I was like, do I bring a pillow on the bus? I was like, I don't know what
Did you bring your own pillow?
I did bring my own pillow.
Smart.
He was like, yes, bring your own pillow.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
How does a grown woman live on a moving bus? Or a grown woman or man, in your sense.
Grown woman, like, with 9 strangers.
Sure.
I'm like, that's a sitcom in itself. Like, actually, that would be a hilarious sitcom, like just a tour bus.
Yeah.
Like, the whole sitcom is just on a tour bus, and it's just these people trying to live together. That would be hilarious. If that ever happens, it was my idea first. I want my check. Like,
you heard it here first. We've come up with 2 movie script ideas or TV shows right now on the Creatively Connected podcast. I'm telling you, season 2 is coming hot. We're coming hot. No, I was thinking, I've thought it many a times, but I thought about it the other day. It was like, tour is just like an adult field trip. But
yes.
At first, for your instance, when you first got brought on the tour, it was, you have a story. You're
no, it's just such a funny, because it's so true.
Yeah, it's an
trip.
adult field trip for grown-ups, and you go, and at first you become part of a team, and you don't know any of them, and then before week 1's over, you're best friends with them, and it's like, I don't know, it's such a unique experience to get to do that, when you're growing up. And I don't know, I relate it always has felt like a field trip, because obviously you're working and stuff, but you get to go see cool places. Right. And you're on social media in the middle of the week, and your friends are back home working their day jobs in corporate America, and here you are traveling the country on a bus, getting to see all these cool places and stuff. Like,
oh my god,
it's unmatched. You can't really find that in many other jobs. Maybe you can, but I don't know. I feel like touring's so unique in its own way.
It's so unique, and it's just so chaotic, but in like the best way possible.
Yeah.
It's organized chaos, if you will.
What's been your most chaotic day on tour?
I'll tell you about my most chaotic 48 hours. How about that?
Even better.
So
probably felt like one day.
It basically was, because I think I slept 3 hours in that 48-hour period. So we had a festival in Wisconsin.
Okay.
We got off stage. We had 30 minutes to grab our bags, make sure we're all ready to go, hop in a car, go to Chicago O'Hare. That was a 3-hour drive to Chicago O'Hare. Get on the plane, go to Vegas. We land in Vegas. By the time we get to our hotel and stuff, we have 30 minutes, not even, to get to the club with Tiesto. We're in the DJ booth with Tiesto. Alana and Tiesto dropped a song. And so it was like celebrating that. So we're at the club until 4 a.m. Go to bed. I'm a morning person.
Probably a couple hours.
No, literally, it was like a couple hours. I woke back up. By the time I fall asleep, it was probably almost 5. Woke back up at like 8:30. Had to get myself ready, eat, whatever. Alana started doing glam. And then we had a pool party to go to at where was it? I don't know. It was some pool party in Vegas. Alana was performing the song with Tiesto. So we were doing content all day, had that performance. Performance is done. We hang out for a while. It's like 5 o'clock at this point. Dinner, we get back to the hotel. We had like 45 minutes, freshen up, go to dinner. By the time we get done with dinner, we had about, again, 45 minutes, an hour-ish, back at the hotel. Had to hop on a red eye to go to Toronto.
All the big cities.
Yeah, no. So we had a layover in Atlanta first. So we go
that's tour life for
Wisconsin, Vegas, Atlanta, Toronto. We get to Toronto. We had like a little bit of a drive to Boots and Hearts. By the time we get to Boots and Hearts, it's like an hour before press starts.
You flew from Vegas to Toronto.
Yeah.
So that's like across the country.
Yeah, but we had a layover in Atlanta for a little bit first. So like no sleep. Yeah. I was so severely unwell. And then she had the Boots and Hearts performance, and I was like, I'm dying. And I actually was like deceased for the rest of the week. Like I needed 3 to 5 business days to recover from that 48 hours.
See, that's a a full-blown tour story right there, and that's your first tour, so it's kind of hard to like grasp and understand like, oh, this is really what it's like. Most people, it's just a weekend and then come home, and they do that for a year or two, but you skipped some steps and jumped straight on a very busy flight-filled all across the country tour, it sounds like.
And that was like the end of a run, so we were already so tired, and then we were home for only a few days, and then we had another like 6-day run. So it was just pure chaos.
It's like when you're home, it's not even enough time to catch up or rest. It's just enough time to wash your clothes and maybe
repack the suitcase and get out.
Maybe upload the footage. Probably can't even get to editing it by the time you gotta head back out. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's the one thing too, is like I constantly feel like I'm behind. And this is the thing too, as a freelancer, there's always going to be something more you can edit. There's always going to be another video you want to make. Like, the biggest thing I've had to learn is once it's done, be done, move on from it, because you will be constantly coming back to re-edit your work. And it's never ending content, which is a great problem to have. It's great to have a lot to work with. But it can be
bad too at the same time.
It can be bad too at the same time. And it's just like, just make note of what you would change and carry it into the next one. Keep going forward, because you don't want to get stuck, and then you're going to have that backlog of shit you need to get done, and you're going to be feeling even more overwhelmed. He's like, it's me. Literally, and me too. I'm guilty of this too. But it's like, learn from my mistakes, people, okay? Yeah. Like, there's so many things I've learned in these first few months that I'm like, okay, mental note, moving on, because you just have to keep trucking forward. You're going to get stuck otherwise.
Yeah, you will get stuck. And like Rick Rubin, I think he said it best. He was like, art is never done until you say it's done. So like, if you're finishing a project, you can continue to work on that for months, years, or you can have it done at the end of the week. It's really up to the artists themselves, but you have to draw the line of when is this project or when is this photo edited enough and I can send it off and move on to the next. Because at the end of the day, it's probably not even that, like, for your instance, editing a photo or me a video, we'll get so caught up on changing one little thing, but the client, the one that's getting it, probably wouldn't even ever notice that. It just, micro focusing on little things like that. That's one thing I've done, I know, and still guilty of some, but I've grown a lot in that aspect. So I try to get stuff out quick, especially on the road, because as soon as one day's done, the next one's already beginning, and if you let that back up too much, you're coming home to a lot of shit to edit. So
and with content nowadays too, it's so important that it's posted in real time, and it's like finding that balance of, okay, we are getting the edit quickly, but also this is a quality edit, so that's also a balancing game.
So that was a busy 48 hours for you. What does a normal, mellow, typical day look like for a tour photographer? Or for you? It might look different for everyone.
Yeah, every photographer is different. Like, it's funny because I'm known in the camp as the one who's the first up. Like, I'm up before the TM. It's just a habit for me. I can't really sleep on the bus. And
if there's an emergency, you're waking them up, not the TM.
Yeah, probably. Because, it was so funny on this tour. Like, there was one morning I finally was able to sleep in until like 10 o'clock. That's unheard of for me. And I finally come out of my bunk, and the bus driver, he's like, you weren't up this morning. Because, I'm up at like 6, 7 a.m. every day, which for a tour photographer is brutal because we're the last ones to go to bed.
Sure.
So I've had to get used to running on 5-6 hours of sleep, which is not the healthiest thing to do, but like, it's fine, whatever. So usually I'll try and get up by 8 o'clock the latest. I like to, work on some stuff before everybody else is up. It just allows me to focus better.
Sure.
Whether that's edits for Alana, edits for my other clients, stuff for my own podcast. I've always got, like I said, there's always work to be done. There's always things I can be editing. So normally we'll do that. Usually we'll go eat breakfast, and then after breakfast, usually what I will do is I'll kind of scope out whatever venue we're at and just see if there's any cool content spots to get that kind of TikTok type content. We'll do a couple of those videos, come back, edit some so she can post them that day or just to have, and then we get ready for the show. So normally we'll do sound check. I'll grab content of that, just any kind of silly, fun content that I kind of think this is a moment to capture, because it's also about learning when to put the camera down, right? There's some things that, in conversations, and also time for people to relax. It's something you have to remember too, is like, it can be really unnerving for people to be on camera. Like, not everyone likes it. Even the artists themselves, sometimes they're like, I don't want to be filmed right now. Like, I get like that.
That's why you brought me here. I'm going to film.
Right. But so learning that, and then it's showtime. And showtime is crazy for me because I do both photo and video. So I'm constantly changing lenses, lens filters, camera on the gimbal, camera off the gimbal. And it's definitely been a big learning curve for me of what works for me, and, you know, communicating with Alana, you know, what are her priorities for video that night? Is there a song that she wants the entirety of? And so being able to have that open dialogue with her has been so beneficial and helpful for me in finding my path to, you know, getting the best content I can.
Sure. Our lives are filled with content. If you're looking to get into this industry, you're going to be
content.
One, shooting content a lot, and you're going to be saying the word content a lot.
Content and moments. Those are like the two buzzwords that if I never heard them again in my life, I would be so happy.
What's the difference in content and moments? Are moments content, or is content moments?
Content, so they are similar, but they are different, because here's the thing. You can have a moment, but how do you make that translate
into content
for socials, right? Because you can have the most beautiful video, the most beautiful photo. If it does not grab somebody's attention, it will fall flat. It will not perform.
Sure.
And so how do you take this moment and make it grab somebody's attention? You know, what is the lead in? On average, I think I saw the statistic. It's like, I think you have like 7 seconds to grab somebody's attention to make them watch the video. So how do you take this moment that you know is really funny or really sentimental, whatever it is, how do you make that translate to somebody who wasn't there? Because that's the key, is making them feel like they were there with you, or giving them FOMO and being like, damn, that looked like a good time.
Right. What are some common misconceptions, whether it was, you know, something you thought prior to getting into the industry or just stigma around it, misconceptions about tour photography or the touring industry as a whole?
Ooh, I feel like with photography, I mean, there's always that classic of, oh, you just push buttons.
Yeah.
It really is such its own art form, and everyone has a unique style. I think I don't know if there was misconceptions I really had about the touring industry. I think it's just more of, you don't realize how much goes into it as a fan, right? And, you know, I always was a concert lover growing up, and you know it's a big production, but to actually see the work that goes into it, it's really hard to wrap your brain around, like, how many people touch a production.
Yeah.
Like, as even on the smallest tours.
Sure.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And what's great about it is you may be a part of the best night of somebody's life and you just don't even know it, which I think is such a special thing to say, you know, like, you could be capturing that for someone you have no idea.
I think that's something I struggle with, is like just getting caught up in the moment so much that there's so many people that have paid so much money to come see these shows and be a part of it. And it's like, you see the crazy ones, or not saying they're crazy, but they go crazy on camera.
Yeah.
And it's like, they think they're ending up in the video or on photo, like that's everything to them. And to you, it's just like, you're just walking by.
It's just your B-roll. Like, you don't know.
You really don't know, one, who the people are and what they're going through, why they came to the show, or what kind of emotions. You know, maybe it's a couple that used to listen to this artist back in the day, or they got married to this song. You know, you never know what the circumstance may be. So that's the beauty in our jobs, is we were talking about it prior to recording, but capturing those moments. And being able to tell a story, because you never know who's watching it and why they're watching it, you know, why they're a part of it. So
exactly,
that's really cool. We talked about how draining touring can be a little bit ago. How do you handle some of the physical and mental demands of the industry, and just being away from home, you know, so much and so often?
Yeah.
How do you, you know, navigate through that, either once you come home or while you're out on the road?
I don't.
It's fair.
I think learning when to put yourself first is really important. Learning when to say no is really important. Again, as a people pleaser and someone who just has that's my personality, it can be really challenging for me, because I never want to feel like I'm disappointing anybody or letting people down. But this is your reminder that, like, as a freelancer, it's so not only okay, but important that you have boundaries that you stick to. Obviously this isn't a standard 9-to-5 job, but, you know, setting those hours for yourself, time blocking has been really great for me, of like, being like, okay, I'm going to give myself this amount of time to work on this. After that, I'm moving on. I'm going for a walk. I'm doing something else. Because I said this to you before too, like, I never want to, again, lose my ability to be creative just to be creative. I don't want this to feel like a job. I want to enjoy it and try and be as present in the moment as I can. Of other things I do, of course, it's the typical, I go to the gym. I'm very big into fitness. It's really helped me in my mental health. But also just, it's a great outlet. Sure. And just spending the time with the people that I love. I think as touring professionals, it can be really easy to like let friendships fade away and let relationships be forgotten about. Make time for the people that you want. I always say there's nobody busier than somebody who's not interested in you. And that is so true with everything. But like, we make time for the things that we want to make time for. Sure. Make sure you're making time for the people who love you, because they will be there to support you. Like if you regardless. Regardless. Like if you don't get a gig you want, or just like, anything happens, like don't forget about your friends in this industry, because it is really easy to do that. Let life pass you by. Adult life is busy. So learning to do that is really, I think, important. Adult life is very busy on top of touring and getting, drug across the country here and there. It's literally like a whirlwind. You never know if you're coming or going, and you don't know what city you're in. You wake up in a new city, and right. I'm guilty of that too. When I've, my first 2 years touring, I would, I lost a lot of friendships, relations, not necessarily lost them, but they died off. Drifted, I didn't water them, didn't tend to them how I should have. And that's friends, that's family too. You have to be disciplined in that. And I like what you said a minute ago. You make time for what you want to make time for. Not, we're all busy, but no one's that busy where they can't at least send a text message, check up, or anything like that. Right. And I think nowadays too, people overcomplicate friendships and relationships in general. Like it doesn't have, you don't need 2 hours of it. Just literally send a text of like, hey, thinking of you. And if you're somebody who's so busy, be like, hey, I'd love to catch up with you. Do you have time this day at this time? Put it in your calendar. Literally, that is what I do with my friends from home. And like, it has worked so well for us. And I'm like, I've been in Nashville for 4 years now. The fact that I've been able to maintain so many close friendships is insane, but also a beautiful thing. It shows how much I care about the people in my life. Sure. Take that time and schedule it with people. Like, my calendar is my best friend right now. You know what I mean? And just that intentionality, because I'm an extrovert. I don't know if that's obvious from this podcast. I'm very extroverted. You'll have never guessed it. No, never. So I recharge by spending that quality time with the people I love. Gotcha. And so making sure that I do that is really important. If you're somebody who's like that, that's the biggest piece of advice I can give you, is just have your boundaries and make time for the people you love. I think that'll be the key to success. And get you a calendar. That too. Please get a calendar. Do you stay active updating the calendar when you're on the road, or does it kind of fall off? Oh no, my calendar is literally color coded by one of them. No, it has to be. It's like, okay, no, my content shoots, podcast, appointments, it's what's all delivered, what's not. Yeah, I have a whiteboard in my room, tracking everything. Organization is going to be your best friend. All my files are organized. I know where everything is. Has it always been like that, or did you get a cluster of shit and then you had to kind of clean it out and organize? I've always been a pretty organized person, but I've had to become more organized. Yeah. I would say being a creative in general, if you have, I couldn't imagine just files and videos and photos all over the place. No, it drives me nuts. I whatever the concert is, the day, what city we're in, yep. I'm so OCD about that. Yep. Because I know I'll be looking for it come the end of the year when I'm putting together my reel, and won't have I'll think of the shot, but won't have a clue of, when it was. Find it. Organization is key. I'll never forget when I was in college, I switched my major to broadcasting, and was this before or after you were a SIG-App? It was during, actually. It was during, but we're not mentioning that on the podcast. Go SIG-App though. And they made me lose my train of thought. Oh, yes. I was in class, and I didn't even really know what a hard drive was at that time and why I needed it, but it was a requirement for the class. So I took it in there, and I'd had stuff on it, just files, and my professor was like, Chris, what is this? This is so unorganized and ugly. You'll never be a creative if this is how your hard drives. He was an ass to me, but it worked. It lit that spark in me. I was like, I guess if I am going to do this full time, I need to get pretty organized. So ever since that day, I've been very
very to a T with my files and organization. So
Yeah.
if you're going to be a creative, you better get organized. And if you're not, you're going to have a lot of headaches. I'll say that.
For sure.
What's your approach to your storytelling through photography or through video? How do you go about approaching maybe how you take a picture or video, or how you approach it? What goes through your mind and process in that?
Oh God, that is such a hard but good question.
I just press a button.
Yeah, I just blind. No.
We're just photographers.
I think for me, the biggest, oh God, I'm like trying to think how to word this. I think for me is like, I really want to make sure I capture the feeling, right? Because I love knowing the story behind a photo. I think it's such a beautiful thing. Like I personally, this isn't a show photo, but in my room, I have a picture of Laguna Beach on the highway.
My favorite beach in California, actually.
I've only been there once.
Same.
It was beautiful.
And it's my favorite.
It was beautiful. And the story behind that photo is my two best friends from high school and I, we finally got to do our post-grad trip. This was last summer. And Laguna Beach was the last day of our trip. And we had gone surfing. It was all of our first time surfing. And so I just took this photo. The highway was so beautiful, but it's a great shot and I'm so proud of it. But knowing the story behind that photo, it makes it even more beautiful to me. Sure. And so when I'm at a show, I want there to like somebody to look at it, like especially Alana, because these are her memories that I'm capturing, and be able to look at it and be like, oh, I remember the crowd that night and it was so electric, or like, right. Oh, this was my favorite moment of the show. Like just being able to preserve that is so, it's priceless. You can't put a price on that. And so that's really how I approach it. And then when I'm editing things, I always say that my style is kind of like, I call it like a dreamy haze. Like I really love that like vintagey, grain, warm tones. Alana's loves high flash. And so melding our two styles has also been a lot of fun and a really cool challenge for me. And so that's something too. It just catches my eye for some reason.
Yeah. Why is it, do you think that's your style? Why do you think you like the warm tones, the red tones?
I think it just I think there's something about like a warm vintage that just reminds you of like childhood and family. Maybe it's like a nostalgia thing. It just feels like a very nostalgic thing. And I'm such a sentimental person that I think maybe that's why I gravitate towards that style and those like really warm tones. Also, I don't know if this goes into me being Italian, but I grew up around a lot of like reds and yellows. Everything was that kind of decor. So I don't know what it is. I'm just so drawn to it. It's kind of one of those unexplainable things, but it's been a really fun challenge for me to meld my style with Alana's and just also really hone in on it, because I've only been doing photo and video again for a little over a year now.
Gotcha.
I was really big into photo in high school, but I fell off when I went to college. I was a film major, but I really focused on screenwriting. Of course, I ended up doing video, the one thing I didn't focus on, but I had enough basics to teach myself. And I think that's the thing too. People think you need a lot of experience to do this kind of thing. And again, it goes back to the delusion of, okay, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's really what I did. And I think it's paid off for me.
Yeah, no, it has and continues to. And you're right. You don't need, I mean, you do, at some point you will need experience. You'll need to know what you're doing, but you don't need a portfolio that's a mile long of all these things you've done. You just need the delusion and to put yourself, you need to be able to believe that an opportunity like that can fall in your lap. It's a lot of people they don't have that delusion.
There's no one correct path to like get anywhere, especially in this industry, but any career really. I think that was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got in college, was like comparing career paths to, I think my professor compared it to like a mouse hole. And he was like, okay, when one mouse gets through, they plug up the hole and now you have to find like a new way into the house. And I feel like that's kind of how my career has gone. I didn't start out on this side of things. I started out in radio and worked my way into this side. And I'm so thankful. I have no regrets on how my career has gone, because they've all led me to where I am today. And I'm so happy with where I am. And I'm sure in 2, 3, 5 more years, something else will happen to me that seems like a low point, but it turns out to be the best thing. Like, life is going to constantly keep coming at you. And if you let it eat you alive, like, it will. Yeah. So it's just learning to roll with the punches and continuing to grow, and just honestly fall in love with growth and learning, because then you can never fail and you will never lose.
Yeah. I feel like that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they hit a certain pinnacle and they're like, I can't learn from people under me. And you can learn
from anybody. You need to learn to check your ego at the door. That is, I think, partially why I've gotten, this is going to sound like really ego-y, but I promise I don't mean it to be, why I've gotten so far so quickly, because I have a love of learning, and I think people can see that, and they can see the joy that I want to bring to their lives.
Sure.
You don't need to have the longest portfolio, like you said. You don't need to be the quote unquote best. Sure, maybe some people look for that, but I think a lot of people would much rather they're able to get along with you and, give you the feedback. Being able to take feedback is a skill in itself.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the music industry.
Oh my God, yeah. I love feedback personally. I'm like, tell me what you
helps
do and don't
get
like.
better at your craft, You can't, you're just one person. You might like a way you edited a photo or something, but it might be completely trash to the next person. So to mend the two together, you need that feedback.
Or you sometimes when you look at something for so long, you can miss details easily. It's like when you're proofreading something, same thing, you can glaze over words. And you may not notice somebody's hand is somewhere and it looks like they're grabbing a butt. Like it happens, and you got to Photoshop it out. Like it's just part of the game.
That can be a pain sometimes.
Oh my God. Okay. I will say I'm an AI hater, but the Lightroom AI tool.
Amazing.
So amazing. I'm an AI hater. I'm like, damn, that's a good tool. It's so helpful.
When I first seen it down there after I'd updated Lightroom, I was like, what is this? I'm not going to like it, but I use it a lot.
And the denoise is great.
Denoise is good, especially for concerts too. You never know what the lighting's going to be.
Oh my God.
It changes rapidly.
That or like the haze. And I feel like sometimes the smoke makes the photo look like it's a lower quality than it actually is.
Yeah, it's not. You're just standing in the midst of fire.
Literally, it's so freaking annoying. I'm like, damn it. It can ruin. There's nothing worse though when you think you got a really great shot and then you go back and look at it and you're just like, this didn't hit how I thought it was gonna. And that's the crazy thing too, is looking at my befores and afters, coloring, how that can change the meaning of a photo. It's insane. I don't think people realize, like, you can change the tone of a photo. Pun not intended. You can change the tone of a photo with the way you color it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. People, sometimes my friends be like, you shot this on your iPhone or on this camera? I'm like, yeah, it's not necessarily the device you're using. It's how you color it and how you can create the image that you're wanting to present. So you said something a minute ago about Alana, and I forget what it was you said, but my thought on it, you preserving the memories that, like we get to do for these. Something popped in my mind. I've never really thought about this until you said that, but think what it's going to be like in like 20, 30, 40 years. We're so caught up in touring right now and running and gunning, but way down the road, looking back on those, like for us too, our work, but the artists themselves, like that's gonna, you and Alana, be doing separate things by then, and she'll call you up and be like, guess what I found in this picture you took of me? And like, that's just, it's a timeless, memory.
It's a timeless thing. And I think I've really lucked out that, Alana and I are closer in age, and we've gotten really close really quickly. And I think that's also helped me capturing better content for her, because there's that trust of like, hey, can you tweak this on this photo? Or like, oh, can I see this in color instead of black and white? Like just being able to have that line of communication and take that feedback has been so great. But yeah, like a buddy of mine is Tim McGraw's guy, and he was doing some video for him of like, and it was pulling old archive footage, and he was editing this archive footage into his work. And I'm like, that is like, my work could be part of that someday, of archive footage from the early getting started days of a career. Like that's awesome to think about.
Yeah. You never know what documentary or what they're going to put together in the future, and they might call you up and like, hey, we need this, and also here's a cut, you get this because you were the photographer for that. So
like just that being able to do that is so, I will never take it for granted. It really is the coolest thing to be doing.
Yeah. Very blessed to be doing it, especially, not that it fell in your lap, but it found you. We were talking before, and you mentioned sometimes you feel like you may have skipped some steps, and it's like,
I feel like I cut the line a little bit. I won't even lie. And I don't take that for granted. I think I use it as fuel to keep me going. But what what was I going to say? Oh my goodness, I'm having a stroke. Like I said, this is what I was saying too. Like the best piece of advice I can give people is when you're reaching out, never ask for the job, right? Like just learn about how somebody got where they are, and the opportunities will find you. And I think that's why I partially feel like this just fell in my lap, because I was doing all this work all these years and I didn't even know it, because I was just genuinely connecting and getting to know people and hearing their stories.
Sure.
And they remembered that. I think people don't realize, like, people will remember way more than you think they will. And so really take the time to get to know somebody and learn about how they got to where they are, and how can you apply that to yourself and your career and your dreams, and just make it your own.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my job at iHeart. That's how I got the Alana gig. Like, you never know when you meet somebody what it'll lead to.
Right. And with our field, I feel like it's very different from other fields. Not everyone just gets that opportunity and presented with meeting so many different people.
Yeah.
Like, we're all constantly, even if it's not tour, networking here in Nashville, shooting gigs, whatever. You had a meeting before this with other videographers, filmmakers. It's like you're constantly meeting and networking, and you have to nurture those relationships and show up. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about previously, not being too busy for that, because a lot of people will forget to do that. And you can meet people, but if you don't go back to it and check up, or ask how they're doing, see what they're up to, they kind of die off. So it's a blessing to be in a field where you just constantly don't really have a choice but to meet a lot of people, and sounds like you're handling it properly and actually building connection with those. So
I try to. I think people nowadays are a little too cynical and don't give people the benefit of the doubt enough. And to that I say, just be the kind of person you want to others. For me, again, that's part of why I even started my own podcast, is I wanted to be for others what the kind of person I wish I had for myself growing up, and just giving back in that way. And I was always like, if my story can help even one person overcome something, then that's worth it to me. And that's how I feel with, the create photo and video. Like, if someone asks me a question, I'm going to answer them. I'm going to give them that information. I'm not going to sit here and gatekeep my tricks or whatever. And I think I've been very blessed with a wonderful creative community around me of people who are like-minded in that and want to help each other and work together and take the ego out of it. And of course, not everybody's like that. It happens. But give people the benefit of the doubt. Give them a chance, because at the end of the day, then in your heart that you were a good person and you extended that olive branch. I think that is worth way more than being like, no, they're going to screw me over, I'm just not going to bother. Like, if the world, everyone operated the way I'm talking about, like,
all the problems would be solved.
Right?
Everybody would be happy.
Be so peaceful and happy.
Be more like Meg, you guys. Come on.
And that's the thing too, is people are probably listening to me being like, this girl is going to be eaten alive in this town, blah, blah, blah. I'm fine.
Clearly not.
Clearly not.
You're doing fine.
Because again, there's always going to be somebody that wants to take you for granted and take advantage of you. That's where having those boundaries and, being strong within yourself is going to come into play.
Sure.
But don't let that take away from the fact that you want to be a genuine person to others. Like, I've had to learn that lesson so many times over the years, and there were so many things that has happened in my life that, when I talk about them with people, they're like, and you're still a nice person? I'm like, yeah, because I'm not going to let somebody else take that from me. These personality traits of mine are what make me me, and I love myself. So I do not want that to be taken. Like,
sure.
Period.
You can't let others take your happiness from you, because if they're saying something to you or negative to you, more than likely it's internal. It's a
reflection of them. People are walking projections.
Exactly.
They will be fake as fuck to your face. They're gonna talk their shit behind your back. If you know who you are, that is all that matters.
Absolutely. So you're early in, this side of your career. You've been doing it for some time. What does success look like to you in your regards, whether it's photography or just life in general?
I think success to me is a scale. And what I mean by that is I'm constantly redefining what success looks like for me. Is it a monetary amount? Is it landing a gig? All of those things can be true at once. I think in this moment, success for me is just continuing to grow my brand and my name. killing this next tour with Alana and continuing this relationship, hopefully into 2025. And just for me, really learning new skills. I recognize I have so much to learn still. And to me, the success is learning those things, teaching them to myself, implementing them, and just doing the best work I can for my clients and just the people who trust me with their art, because it is a trust relationship. Hiring a photographer, videographer, it's a risk, you know, and if you're not happy with the end result, that really sucks, because, you know, nothing you can do about it. You can't recreate those moments.
Yeah, depending on what it is, but even still,
it'll never be the same as the first time. But also, you probably spent a lot of money on it. So just trying to be the best that I can and show up for people the way, again, I would want somebody to show up for me is really important. I will never forget my first shoot for my podcast. I could tell the photographer was just there to cash a paycheck, and that feeling sucked.
Yeah. You can always sense it too.
You can sense it, and you could sense when they don't give a shit about what you're doing. And again, it makes you question yourself of, ooh, is this cringe? And is this dumb? And again, I never want a client to feel like that ever. Yeah. So that's really big for me, is just also being there to support them, because you don't know what other people in their life are saying or how they're supporting them. Absolutely. You want to make sure client satisfaction is top tier, you know? Yes. happy. It's not happy wife, happy life. It's happy clients, happy life, you know? Got to make sure they're happy. Otherwise, your phone will be blowing up and asking for all this and that. And it's all that balance, because there are clients that will try and take advantage. So it's life's a balance. It's hard. It's not easy. But you will learn. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable is a big piece of advice I can offer. I love that quote. I say that, funny enough, I say that to my mom a lot, because she just gets in a klutz sometimes. I'm like, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. When did we become like our parents' parents? I feel like I'm the same way with my mother, and because she's dating for the first time, and I'm like. We're giving them advice. I'm giving her dating advice. I'm like, you just need to learn how to love yourself and be comfortable being single. And I'm like, okay, all right. I don't need to be my mother's like dating coach. You know what I mean? Sure. But you know, maybe she needs the younger advice on it. You know, she stopped telling me things, because I won't tell her what she wants to hear. It's so funny. You tell her what she needs to hear. Yeah, and then it leads to a little argument. I do that with all my friends though, and I say this too: is a good friend will tell you what you want to hear. Your best friends will tell you what you need to hear. And same goes with the creative community around me, is they're not going to tell me what I want to hear. They will tell me what I need to hear. Is my work garbage? Am I being lazy? Like hold the people in your life accountable. Like find that community, because they will make you better too. Yeah, that's the kind of people you want around you, not yes men. Just you want people that are going to hold you accountable and make you do your best work, like push you. If you're slipping up, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to give my 2 cents, and you know, you might not like it. Maybe I should have bit my tongue a little bit, but I struggle with that, even with like family too. I'm so like, I don't know. I see people for like their what their potential is. You know, I know they're better than that. So it's like you can do that. I may come across too harsh sometimes. See, I'm a New Yorker. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about your feelings. I do, but like fucking walking here, asshole. The funniest thing is when people will hear I'm from New York and they go, "But you're so nice." I'm like, is that a compliment? Is that an insult? I don't know. You are a nice person for a New Yorker. That's what everybody says. I'm like, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult. Take it how you wish. I'd take it as a compliment. I'll take it as a compliment. Yeah. I think I'm a joy. It's more, so far so good. You know, some New Yorkers that I've met are a little bit more on the... just don't make me mad. That's all, you know? See, if you would have never said New York, I probably wouldn't have guessed it. You don't have a crazy northern accent. It comes out on certain words. It comes out when I talk to my mom. What words? Like walk, dog. Dog, talk, water. Sauce is a big one. Or like if I just talked to my mom, or I was just home for a little bit. So when I came back the first few days, my accent was really bad after being around my family. Where would you have thought I was from? Texas. I don't know. I was random. I'm just kidding. That's the first state that came to mind. I don't know. I mean, you give off a Nashville vibe as it is. I guess you've been here, 4 years, you said? Yeah. So. It's funny enough, because when I go back home, like, especially the first time I went home after I moved, everyone was like, you seem more you. And I was like, yeah, I feel more me. I think Nashville has suited me and my personality and has made me the best version of myself. I feel like I could really flourish here. And that's the other thing too, is like sometimes it's just the city. It doesn't suit you. It's like, I encourage everybody to do something, to like do a big change at some point, especially in your early 20s. I always felt like if I didn't move when I did, I was never going to leave New York. And that's probably true. I probably would have gotten stuck. And I don't think I would be the person that I am today at all. So if you feel like that, just take the leap of faith, you know, worst comes to worst, you move back home. You tried at least.
Yeah. A lot of people think it's a permanent decision to take a leap, and
nothing in life is permanent except death. Sorry, that's really morbid, but it's so true.
We just got dark on y'all for a minute, but she's speaking fast.
Is it time to trauma dump yet?
Come on, Megan, tell us how you really feel now.
You don't want that.
After 35 minutes on recording, she starts going.
I just get a little silly, guys. It's fine.
No, it's very true, though. Death and taxes is the only two things that scare. See, I can go there, too.
Death and taxes.
Now I sound like I'm from Texas.
No, literally. I mean, you're from Tennessee, close enough.
Just from good old heart, Nashville, Tennessee, you guys. Don't judge me. Do I have a country accent?
Yeah, you do a little bit.
Sounds like something a New Yorker would say. People tell me, like, it depends. You know, we travel a lot, so I meet a lot of people from different places, and they're like, oh, some will say you sound like a hick, and some. I've been told that I sound like I'm from New York, or that my vibe comes off as New York.
No, respectfully, no.
I mean,
as a New Yorker,
I don't take it disrespectfully. I don't want to be from that place.
Can I flip you off again?
No, but I don't think I'm like that hick sounding. I might have a little twang.
You definitely have a southern twang. I didn't think you were hick though. Like, you don't give me like, come on, we're gonna go to the back porch.
My farmer's tan doesn't scream hick.
It's not that bad. I've seen worse farmer's tans.
So I've been driving around for the last 2 weeks with my doors and top off my Jeep. So I've had like shade at weird times on weird parts of my upper body. So I've been trying to get rid of the tan.
The farmer's tan. And then there's me. I'm too tan right now. I have like the worst tan lines.
I just want to be even. I just want to be
go get a spray tan.
Like my my torso is like the color of my shirt, and then my arms have a little redness to them, and then upper arms is life of a Jeep owner. You know, you ride around with.
Oh, it's so hard.
It is.
I feel so sorry for you.
It's a tough life. Can fully customize my car. The most customizable vehicle that's on the market, actually. I don't fact check me because I don't know if that's true.
I feel like the Broncos might give you a run for your money on that.
It's up there. Jeep's just a broke boys Bronco, you know, or not Bronco. What's the other one? I don't know. It makes me think too much. Not on my sheet, so I'm drawing a blank. We talked about, you know, how much of draining this can be. What do you do for, you know, your mental health and well-being if you're feeling overwhelmed or just like we were talking about before, a creative burnout? What do you do to kind of help with that process?
Didn't we talk about this?
We might have.
I think you asked me this already.
I did on the road. I said it like on the road. Yeah, just like in general for your well-being.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like on the road, I think I said this earlier. Like I love working out. I do that on the road as much as I can. But when I come home, it's like a big priority for me to get in the gym. I'm literally going to the gym right after this. And like I said, spending time with the people that I love. My dog. I love my dog so much. I'm that annoying dog mom. That's one thing about touring is it's been really hard for me to leave him so much. But the biggest thing I've learned is like loving being alone. Again, I'm so extroverted, but I've never wanted so much alone time than when I come home from tour. And also just having my other creative outlets, you know, aside from what I do with Alana, like working with my other clients, doing my own podcast, my writing, it's weirdly restorative for me to have because it's other pieces of my mind working. So that's something that I'm really big on, and just catching up on a lot of lost sleep because I do not sleep well on the bus at all.
Not a good bus sleeper?
No, especially because I'm top bunk.
Oh, that's the worst.
No, it's. I feel like I'm going flying all the time.
What would be your preference if you?
Middle. Oh my God! I got one weekend. I got to sleep on the middle because Bosch, Alana's manager, wasn't there. And I was like,
This is
This is heaven.
You don't have to climb or get down the ground. You
Oh
can
my-
just turn your body sideways and kind of roll into that mode.
Dude, our bass guitarist, every time he sees me climbing, he's like, Spider Meg, Spider Meg. It's so funny. I literally,
funny.
I look like a spider monkey trying to climb because I'm short.
What's your process again? Do you go like right foot on the one
left,
side,
right,
climb,
left, hop.
Yeah, it's a strategy.
I
If
wish
you've
I had a
never-
step stool. Like, I should just bring a step stool on the bus and then make them move it after
Yeah.
I'm in my bunk.
That's smart. Have you always, I guess, I mean, this your first tour, top bunk the whole time? I was always, for the longest time, I was middle bunk, and I loved it. And then I had to rearrange and go to the top when I switched tours. And then on one of them, I was on the bottom. And I thought the bottom would be terrible, and you do kind of hear more of the road on the
Yeah.
bottom. But if you're really tired, one, when you're going to bed, or two, when you're waking up, you can just roll right out or roll right in and not
I
have
know.
to stand up or climb.
I could do the bottom.
Bottom bunk slept on.
The guys who are on the bottom keep offering to switch. I'm like, I'm not going to make you do that. Like,
You have
I'll-
junk bunks and stuff,
we
too?
have
or-
junk bunks, yeah, because I do not want to put my camera gear under the bus. It's like my biggest fear is I get to a gig and my lens is broken.
Yeah,
One
because
of my many.
all those band members, they start getting in there and getting stuff out, merchandise and everything else.
Thankfully,
It's-
our guys are so great. Again, I think I've really lucked out with a really
sounds like
good.
you're on a good team.
Oh, I'm
all
on
around.
such a good team. I like will never take it for granted how wonderful they are to me and just like how welcoming they've been, how encouraging, really just motivating me, like, because they've all been in this for a long time.
Sure.
And I'm
rookie.
like the new kid on the block. So
Yeah.
it's definitely, I really did luck out with the people I got, because I know not everyone's going to be like that. Not every team is that close. Like,
Yeah.
it's been wonderful.
They've all been together for quite some time, or at least doing music.
For the
and
most
touring.
part, I think our bass guitarist is the newest band member. But I think this is like the first year that it's like really a full team, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, it's finally come together.
Band chemistry it's huge, and it also translates into the rest of the crew. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's the band you mentioned earlier. There's so many production people. Depending on the size of the tour, you get
Yeah.
tour managers, and some of these hip hop tours I've done, they have dancers and all
Oh,
that. There's
gosh,
just so
yeah.
many people that are
A lot of
actually
moving parts.
a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Let's talk about finances as a freelancer real quick.
Oh boy. Kidding.
What's your social security number and what's your bank account login? And
It is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 0.
Cool. And the PIN? 9, 10, 11, 12. No, obviously it can be hard sometimes managing
Yeah.
your finances, and if you don't have anyone that's kind of helping you out
Mm-hmm.
on that aspect, it can get all out of whack. How do you go about managing and kind of being your own bookkeeper, or do you have someone for that? Or?
Thank God my mom is a bookkeeper.
Perfect.
She's helping me out. But in all seriousness, learning, just like keeping every single receipt, like
Yeah.
just tracking your mileage, just really, this is where the organization piece comes back into it. Also recognizing it's always going to be feast or famine. Like, just because you had a really, really great month, don't spend it all on new gear just yet, because you don't know what the next month's going to look like. For me, as I'm growing, you constantly want to be reinvesting in new gear. So for me, my goal is like one new piece a month. Make it a slow and steady process, because one, new gear is constantly coming out. I could buy something and then something even better drops in. And I'm like, shit, I just bought this.
Right.
But also just this way you're not overextending yourself financially, especially as a freelancer. Getting on your own health insurance is not that fun. And these are all new things that I'm still trying to figure out. Like, I still don't have health insurance. I will be so transparent about that. I'm figuring it out as I go. But
You're figuring it out. That's all
I'm
that
figuring it
matters.
out, especially like I'm moving to a new apartment. Like, there's just
There's more important things going on.
There's a lot
for
of
you.
moving pieces in my life right now. Like, we're going to knock on wood here. Like, I'm not even going to say those words, because watch, something will happen. Anyways, I digress. But just really recognizing that, like, it's going to be feast or famine, like I said, and just don't go crazy. Don't go crazy and spend more than, like, also don't spend before the client's paid the invoice too. You know what I mean?
Because those might not come for a long time.
Oh yeah. Like, recognizing how slow, especially labels can be with payment.
I'm gonna bite my tongue. Keep talking.
Yeah, that's all I'll say on that. It's a process, but again, if you can plan for it, you're going to be just fine. So ask up front, how long is this going to take? Like, advocate for yourself. And then if you're working with clients that aren't on labels, tack on a late fee and make sure they sign a contract with saying they will pay that late fee.
Contract's huge.
Contract is huge. Like, make sure you have that, because also, like, if you're on a shoot and somebody falls and hurts himself, you don't want to be able to be held liable.
Yeah.
Like, have that contract in place where it's like, I'm not held liable. Like, you will pay this late fee. You'll pay by this day. You know, just this is where the boundaries thing and standing up for yourself is going to also come into play too.
I've not had too many problems. I mean, obviously we've all experienced late payments and stuff, but there's one specifically, and I'm not going to name drop, but it's I'm considering, what do they call it, small claims court.
Small claims, or like going to collections.
Never done that or sent someone there, but I'm about at the point where I'm probably going to do that. But it comes back to me. It was a friend / client, but I didn't have a contract in place. So what, if I take it to collections, they're going to say this, and then it's just going to be, y'all just had a conversation. There's no agreement.
That's also where putting things in writing, because even if you don't have a contract, but you have it over text.
Yeah, text messages, that's the emails, they all do stand for.
Save it. Yeah. Save it all. It's really unfortunate too, but also password protecting drop boxes if you need to. Setting this client.
I've heard of that. I've heard of someone locking their
I've had to do that. Like, I've had
it's
to
understandable.
put a password on it until I was paid. And that's a provision you can put in your thing, is like, I'll send you the Dropbox with a password that you will get upon receipt of the final payment. Like, make your terms work for you. Like, this is your business. This is your livelihood. Like, make it what you want, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to be the one backing it all.
Absolutely. And
say it with your chest, if you will.
Say it with your chest. Bark. Don't be about biting. Be about barking.
Yes.
Because you will get walked over, like you had mentioned earlier. If you, try to be nice to everyone, be nice to everybody, but don't, get taken
Learn
advantage
when to stand up for yourself. That's the key.
Exactly.
Just because I'm nice doesn't mean I'm a fool.
You think you're nice? I'm just
kidding. I've been told for a New Yorker. You know what I mean?
For a New Yorker.
Yeah.
For a... I'm not going to say that word that starts with a Y. That's almost, no, I'm not going to do that. Podcast ends now. Me and Megan are taking this out to the parking lot.
Guys, who would win in a fight? I think I would win in a fight.
You think so?
I think I could win in a fight. 1,000%.
Well, let's test it out on camera. I will let you have it. You did say you were Alana's photographer and bodyguard.
Yes,
so
that's like
she
the running
keeps her
joke.
Safe, and
it's the running
we're
joke.
not going to fight, you guys. Calm down.
Yet.
It's coming. I'm a sick ep. She kind of wants to fight me for that. Next topic.
No, I love the Sig Up boys. That feels like a lifetime ago, though.
It does. Just talking about it. I've never mentioned it.
I feel like a grandma being like, oh, the glory days when I used to dance on elevated services.
Insert B-roll clip of Megan back in her college days.
Those clips will stay under lock and key in my
Put
phone.
a password on them.
Oh yeah.
Don't share those to the public. Was that your thing though? You was an elevated surface dancer.
Unfortunately.
Where'd you go to school?
Syracuse University.
Syracuse. Big party school.
Big
I've heard.
party school.
Yeah.
Big party school.
Big party school with the Sig Eps. And what were you in?
Phi Sig.
Phi Sig.
It's mainly a northern sorority, but
I wouldn't know about it.
No, he wouldn't, because he's a damn redneck.
Can't you tell, darling?
Yeehaw!
We talked before recording about some of your family members. Obviously, most of them back in New York. What's your? I assume they're some of your motivation, but what is your motivation that keeps you going in your drive?
So we're going to get dark and twisty here.
Let's get it.
My father and I have a very complicated relationship. I love him dearly, but I keep my distance. He's an alcoholic. I've watched him lose himself in his career and just never being able to be happy. And so that is kind of my motivation. It's probably really sad to say, but my biggest fear is turning into my father in life. And so I always would rather, be happy and make less than make more and be miserable. That's part of why I passed up going to law school. Before I took my job with iHeart, I was supposed to go back to Syracuse University and pursue entertainment law. And I had a scholarship to do that. And I passed it up for a job that didn't pay great. And my dad was like, are you fucking out of your mind? I didn't pay all this money for you to go to Syracuse for you to just take this crap job. And I took it anyways, and I moved here, and it was the best decision I ever made. I have no regrets on that. But, you know, obviously my mom and I are so close. And don't get me wrong, my dad is a really big supporter of me now, but it's definitely been a long, hard road to get to where we are. And so that's been my big motivation, is not losing myself and recognizing that I am more than my career. And my career doesn't define me. It's just a piece of my identity. And I think a lot of people lose themselves because they think their career who defines who they are, and it really doesn't. So yeah.
That's good that you channel that in that way, and, you know, say you don't want to turn into that, and, you know, because a lot of people that have similar experiences, they'll turn directly into, you know, what their role model is, you know, their parents. So to be able to channel that for good and use it towards your motivation, that's a good thing. You're handling it well, as opposed to a lot of people out there.
Thank my therapist for that.
Shout out to them. Shout out to the therapist. How long have you been going to therapy?
Oh gosh, I've been in and out of therapy since I was 14.
Gotcha.
I've struggled a lot with my mental health, and that's something I talk about on my podcast as well. Like, it's really crazy when you get to the point that you don't even recognize your younger self. Like, the girl who I was, I feel so sad for her, and the way she hated herself. And I look now and I'm like, just you wait, it gets so much better. And you always hear that, you know, growing up. And if you're somebody that's struggled with mental health, they're like, it gets better, it's going to get better. And it feels like it's never ending.
Never going to come.
It feels like you're never going to get out of it. But I so promise, as cliched as it is, this is why it's so important to move away and just get out, because it's, oh my God, moving to Nashville, I felt like I could breathe for the first time. And I found people that celebrated my uniqueness and celebrated my creativity instead of making fun of it. Because now when I go home, it's, oh, you do this? That's so cool. But meanwhile, it was lame growing up.
Sure.
And this goes back to that conversation of it's always going to be cringe until you quote unquote made it. So yeah, I've been in and out of therapy since I was 14 years old. But really, when I moved to Nashville after my first year here, I kind of told you a little bit about a really bad relationship. And the thing about that relationship is, as horrible as it was, I always say, if it wasn't going to be him, it was going to be somebody else that did those things to me and treated me like that, because of how I felt about myself and the things in my life that I had never dealt with. And so that's the only thing I'll ever thank him for, is give me the courage to go back to therapy and work through all these things. And I wouldn't be the woman sitting in this chair today had I not done that. And I always joke, I'm like, I graduated therapy, but my therapist and I joke about that. But it's mental health, I think, is, as far as the conversation has come, there's still so much further to go. Mental health is a never-ending conversation, and it's a never-ending journey. That's the hardest thing too, I think, to grasp is, you know, you are going to be on a mental health journey for the rest of your life. And that sounds really daunting and scary, but just embrace it, learn how to roll with the punches, and you will be surprised at how well you can handle certain things once you truly do the work on yourself.
Yeah. I think therapy, myself, I've personally never gone, but I know a lot of
you
people.
You could use it.
I probably could. I probably could.
So, I'm such an asshole. But no, I seriously think even people who have never had trauma, quote unquote, in their lives, I think could still benefit from therapy, because if you've gone, you know, say 25, 30 years and never having a trauma,
Sure.
I'm so happy for you, but you're going to hit a trauma at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
And how are you going to be able to handle it? So sometimes even doing that preemptive work is so helpful, especially when we're touring. You know, we're sleep deprived, we're in close quarters. Like, it's really challenging on your mental health. So mental health, especially in touring, is so important. And finding the people who understand that is even better. Yeah,
that's the main thing, is finding someone who understands it. Not everyone, you know, you might not be able to go talk to your friend or your mom about, you know, what happened on tour. Not that it was bad, but just they don't understand it. All they think is it's a concert, but they don't realize how much drain. It's
still a job. A job is a job at the end of the day. There's going to be frustrations.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to someone that is looking to break into a creative realm, or thinking about stepping away from their 9-to-5 corporate job if they're not liking it? What piece of advice would you give to them? Oh God, there's so many things. I think first I would want to say is don't get lost in that I'll be happy when mindset. That's what I refer to it as. You know, that mindset of I'll be happy when I get this promotion. I'll be happy when I get this new car. I'll be happy when I get this job. Like, don't get stuck in that, because you will be constantly chasing happiness and not living in the moment. So that's the first thing I will say.
The next thing, again, is this goes back to what I said earlier, is like take an interest in other people and their journeys, because you may be able to learn something and apply it to yourself and make it your own. You know, just coming in with an open mind and an eagerness to learn sometimes is going to get you farther than your skill set. And also just not being afraid to fail. You know, if you embrace every failure as a learning opportunity, then you can never fail. It'll always be a success because you'll get something out of it. And again, that comes back to also defining what does success mean to you. Yeah. There's so many different ways. Like there's no one way of determining that you quote unquote made it or you're successful. If you put it in terms of like getting this deal or contract, whatever, like you're letting other people define. Yeah, you'll never be happy. You're letting other people define what success means to you instead of defining it for yourself. And that's going to be your downfall.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, myself included, sometimes we think of reaching our goals as success.
We all do it.
But it's the goals always change, and you reach that and you don't even comprehend that you've reached it. You know, like right now I'm currently living in times I used to pray for, and like it's hard for me to understand that. Like I said it right then, but when I go out and live, I don't think of that all the time.
You're hungry and you're focusing on the next thing. Like I get it. I'm a walking hypocrite too. Like I do the same exact
I didn't say I was a hypocrite. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But you know, I do the same thing, and but coming back down to earth and also learning to like kind of slow down a little bit and pause.
Yeah.
I think that for me with shooting shows has also really helped, is like taking a beat instead of just shooting, like having a high shutter speed and making sure I get something. Like you're gonna like taking a beat, adjusting your settings, getting a shot, you know, just learning to kind of take that beat and slow down instead of having 2,000 raws at the end of the show. Like it's okay to only have 500, and that's still, you're like 500 raws, that seems like plenty, but photographers will get my gist.
Oh, absolutely. You need as many as possible.
Yeah, but it's like, how many of the same shot do you need? And also at the same time, then what if none of them are good?
Yeah.
It happens.
Then it just takes even longer to get the edit back because you got a gazillion photos to get through.
Yeah, you know.
Like this image is the same. Oh, their pinky is up a little more in this one, but it's still
right. Oh, the hand is slightly more in focus. Like, yeah. It's, you know, your time is valuable, and learning how to optimize your time is going to be your best friend.
Absolutely. Time is key, and it is of the essence. It's constantly ticking, and you don't get it back. I sometimes think to myself, I'm like being lazy or procrastinating. It's cliche to say, but I'm like, I'm literally not getting this day back. Like, I got to get up and do something. I got to move. I hate stagnant energy, so I'm always.
But sometimes it's okay to have a bed rot day.
Yeah,
it really is. Sometimes it's so needed, and you know, don't beat yourself up for it. Like, it's so much better to have that one bed rot day than have a half-assed week. You know what I mean?
Very true.
Allow yourself the time to rest.
I feel like my mental health gets, and I know the rest is important, but if I lay around, you're resting and, you know, charging up, but in my mind, I'm like actually getting in more knots because I'm like, I got to do all this. I got so much
help with that?
Therapy.
Yes. You beat me to it. You stole my joke.
I knew what you was about to say. I'm going, okay? Jeez, I'm signing up right now.
I'll give you my therapist's number.
Please do. Is your therapist name, what's that one? BetterHelp?
No. Oh my God, no. Fuck BetterHelp. Sorry.
They did not help Megan.
No, they didn't help my mom. No, but seriously.
Well, damn you, BetterHelp, assholes.
Yeah, seriously. They're such assholes.
Close that tab out.
They kept canceling on my mom.
That's pretty messed up. They're supposed to be like the most convenient.
Right. But no, I'm such an advocate for in-person therapy. I think there's just, you know.
I think if I were, and I'm not like against like.
There's no distractions. Like with BetterHelp, you can easily get distracted. You're in your own home. You're getting.
Sure.
You know.
And I don't want to tell my problems to some stranger over FaceTime, you know, like.
I'll tell them to a stranger in person.
Exactly. At least want to be able to, you know, see you in person and know you're real, not some AI bot or something. That's probably why they couldn't get back to your mother. It was full on the AI bots. They didn't have no therapists in there. Now we're just shitting on BetterHelp. I'm sorry.
I'm not.
We need to wrap here sometime soon, but we'll finish. What's any plans and goals for the remainder of this year? Obviously, it's September coming to a close. It's September. Damn, this year's flown by.
Yeah.
And into next year, what's on the agenda? What's on the calendar for Megan?
Oh Lordy. Obviously
tour,
very big one. continue, we're approaching the 100th episode of my podcast, which is, I'm very excited. So I have some.
Not the Girl Next Door. Go check it out.
Not the Girl Next Door. It's not the Girl Next Door. It's.
I see what you were trying to do there.
You get my joke.
It's not. You have to pause for a second.
You can't even mess it up if you try. It's great. But yeah, so growing that, we're about to hit the 100th episode. I'm working on hopefully launching the YouTube this year. That's super important to me. I can't believe it's going to be 3 years of that podcast. Like I launched it on my 23rd birthday, and now I'm turning 26 this year. I'm in my mid 20s.
Getting old. God. We're getting close to 30.
I'm scared.
That's wild.
I'm scared. Anyways, that's a big goal of mine.
Note.
Also, my company, Next Door Creative, continuing to grow that. I have some bandwidth for some extra clients right now and hoping to land a few more before the year wraps. And I'm just continuing to learn and grow, and just really, I think also I want to make sure I take the time to process everything that this year has been. I was kind of telling you that before we got started, of how I feel like I haven't had a moment to just sit and process everything, all the change that has happened in my life this year.
Right.
As much as I am so grateful for it, it's still change, and change is scary and hard. So giving myself that grace to fail, learn, grow, whatever you want to call it, is going to be key, I think, for me. And just continuing to grow the Next Door Creative brand and tying it in with Not the Girl Next Door, because those two brands, it was really important to me that when I launched the company that they align and that the stories align. And I think I'm doing a good job of it.
Good branding. Both Next Door.
Yeah, so the story behind that is growing up, I told you I struggled a lot, and I was such a people pleaser, and I always tried to fit that girl next door narrative. I was always smiley, and I was Little Miss Sunshine. I wanted to be liked, didn't talk out of turn, just had a bubbly personality, like whatever. And that really drained me, and that did lead me down a dark path. And then it became a point of just masking the pain and whatever. So Not the Girl Next Door was really born out of that idea of, you don't have to fit a narrative, a mold, whatever. You don't have to put yourself in a box to be the best version of yourself and be loved and find your people. And that's really what the Not the Girl Next Door was born out of, was that idea of becoming the best version of yourself to attract the best quality relationships. And so Next Door Creative, I wanted the brands to tie it in together. And because, also what is the term next door implies? It implies community. It implies somebody you know and can trust, your next door neighbors.
Sure.
There's always that stereotype. And so Next Door Creative, I really wanted to embody that like, hey, I'm a friend, I'm a fellow creative in this with you, and I'm going to give you the best work to help you tell your story. My art is your medium to tell your story. Yeah. And so tying those two in together, it's like the devil and the angel on the shoulder.
Both shoulders, yeah.
It's cool. You got the
though.
devil is like, not the girl next door, fuck everybody, be yourself. And the Next Door Creative is like, come to me, I'm your friend. Like, it's just having those two sides of my personality. And it was really important to me that they tied in together, because I didn't ever want it to look like I just do this and do that and do too much. Like, no, It's intentional, and there is a reason behind everything that I do.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool that you were able to tie those in and continue to build them, and you have a really cool...
In the words of Taylor Swift, I'm a mastermind, if you will. No.
Hair flip, mic drop, podcast cuts.
All right, that's the episode, guys.
Now me and Megan go fight in the parking lot.
Tune in next week to see who won that fight.
There might not be another episode, apparently.
Probably not, because I'm going to win that fight.
I might have to go get a tag team partner from Next Door.
You're so funny. I haven't heard that one before.
I'm going to go to therapy and work on my jokes, too.
Please do, for the love of God.
All right, Megan.
He's like, why did I invite her on the podcast again?
We forgot to hit record on every device.
Oh, darn.
Oh, I'm not recording. There's a prop. This isn't even a mic.
Yeah, no, they're not actually recording.
I just wanted to see who you were as a person, and it's...
And he hates
me. It's amazing person, amazing person. I mean that. Where can the listeners find you on social media?
So you can find the podcast at Not the Girl Next Door Podcast. Very straightforward. Or my company page is at Next Door Creative, but it's just NXT, because with an E was already taken on Instagram, unfortunately.
Instagram.
And both those pages will also have my personal main account linked as well. It's just Meg Reynolds. You can find me. He follows me, so
go find her.
Easy peasy.
Go follow her. Meagan Reynolds, the one and only photographer. Thank you so much for
Thank you for
joining
having me.
us.
I had so much fun.
To kick off season 2 of the Creatively Connected podcast. If you're tired of using business cards, head over to the link in the description. Get your Popple digital business card. You can attach it to the back of your phone. Just tap any device, and yeah, you don't need paper business cards. It's 2024 going on to 2025. People just throw them away, lose them.
Yeah.
They never save your number off of that. With this device, you can just touch their phone, all of your social links, your contact info, portfolio, everything will pop up, and you can get a discount using my coupon code. It'll be in the description. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 13, the first episode of season 2 of this podcast, and we look forward to the rest of this season, and we will see you guys next week.